Welcome back, Wolfpack. Verlis here, and this is what we've all been waiting for. Urshifu's base stats and signature move power. We can finally figure out what is going on with this Pokemon, and if it is actually the most busted thing ever. So let's get into it, and the first revelation, the first big thing we need to talk about, one set of base stats. No matter which form you choose, you are going to get the same Urshifu when it comes to the numbers. So that's a really big deal right there. And then the crazy thing is, Game Freak held back. Because when you look at other legendary Pokemon, they have a 570 base stat total. This is only 550. Now, yeah, they probably could have done some throwaway things like, 70 special defense, 73 special attack, but that would feel bad. That would feel kind of weird. Or they could have just made this Pokemon absolutely insane with like a 107 speed, 140 attack, maybe even push it further, but they didn't. Which leaves us with a really good Pokemon that doesn't hard sweep. 130 attack, 97 speed, those are going to be the most important stats, but at the same time, they made Urshifu thick. Now, I mean, you can look at Urshifu and see there's going to be some kind of bulk going on, but traditional to fighting type Pokemon, very low special defense. Also, I do want to make note, this is not a moveset guide. We're still a little bit a ways from figuring that one out, but I just want to go over like the initial Urshifu, the stats, and all the big things that we need to know right now. But I mean, 100 points, 100 defense. You're surviving physical hits really well. And I'm just trying to think of this Pokemon from like a one-shot potential. Like, how well do you do one-shotting others, and how well do you do if you get one shot in return? So special attackers, good weakness. Interesting counterplay dynamic with this Pokemon, but outside of that, you can just kind of destroy a lot of things. We've already broken down kind of like the theory crafting between the best Urshifu forms based on the typing, and that's also why I'm trying to think about this Pokemon from a non-survivability standpoint. That, you know, if it was faster with less defenses and had more sweeping potential, that was kind of where I was going with it, but at the end of the day, let's talk about Single Strike style, that Fighting Dark, 4 times weak against Fairy. However, Fairy types are usually going to be special attackers anyway. Like that 60 special defense, even if you're going to be eating, you know, like super effective special moves on the other one, not really going to make too much of a difference. 100 hit points, 100 defense, you can survive a super effective fighting move unless it's like a close combat. You can survive a super effective flying move unless it's like a max move or an Brave Bird, something like that. You know, Talonflame damage calculations are probably going to be really interesting to figure out. Good resistances, immunity to Psychic. So there is a trade-off here, and that does bring us to the signature move to kind of back up the things that are going on. So Wicked Blow, 80 power, always crits. It's a dark type close combat. Well, like close combat levels of damage, but there's no drawback. You just crush them for 120 effective base power, and you pierce their defenses because that's how crit works. Now, it does mean there is a cap to this damage. That say if you're doing some kind of crazy strategy to get like crit onto this Pokemon, you can't do it. If you need like that, you know, very small chance to win the game off of hacks, you can't do it. Your damage will always be consistent, but still a nasty amount of damage. That's a 120 effective base power move on a 130 attack Pokemon. Filthy. When we get into the Surging Strikes on the Water Urshifu, 75 base power. So it's only slightly weaker. Like when we were looking and theory crafting this Pokemon, the thought was, well, are we going to see like a 107, 115, higher speed, less attack, less base power, like a significant power difference? Nah, it really doesn't matter, which puts Surging Strikes way ahead of Wicked Blow outside of like the typing, because there's going to be benefits to each. But I mean, Surging Strikes is going to hit 3 times, break Sash, break Mimikyu Disguise, break Sturdy, and just potentially break the entire Pokemon in one hit, because Urshifu stats back it up like that. So that's kind of crazy to consider. And then we have, you know, just super effective special hit, not surviving, not surviving, not surviving. So, I mean, there's about as much, if not more, not surviving on the Rapid Strike style when it just comes to what you're expecting. Grassy Glide might... Wait, is Grassy Glide physical or special? Ooh, it's physical. I was about to say, like, if Grassy Glide was special, it's just completely over for the Urshifu. So, again, like, that's why it's going to take a while until we do the full moveset guide, since there's a lot of moving parts with the fresh DLC. And we do have a ton of resistances, though. Like, Ironically, instead of just being like the super bulky feeling one that you would get off of the Single Strike, Rapid Strike style can just switch into a lot of different things and then have a good setup. So once again, it just kind of comes into play with what is happening in the meta. Let's talk about the G-Max moves. So G-Max, one blow, just gets through Protect, gets through even Max Guard. And this is how the base power scales. So take that into consideration for this, and then same thing with the G-Max Rapid Flow. So water type moves become this, and you can see the different amount of power that we're getting out of it. And even though it's not on this list yet, these signature moves do have a 130 power when used as a max move. So that's kind of really interesting. Like Surging Strikes only has the base of 25, but it does scale naturally into the 130. And it just kind of makes this feel even more weird because the one blow, the big nuke, same damage as the rapid flow. The only thing that changes is the typing and also the other moves you can put into it. Like Aqua Jet, running dual water on the Urshifu could be a potential, especially if you just have priority and then you're doing crazy damage on top of that. So the Aqua Jet follow-up is going to be less when used as rapid flow. Just kind of like weird interaction things that might happen. Also, as a fighting type Pokemon, you do get the Stab Max Knuckle. So you can finish off opponents with that and then get the free +1. It gets a little more ridiculous, gets a little more insane. And then all of this goes really well with our ability, Unseen Fist. If you use a contact move, you can hit through Protect. So whether or not you're Dynamaxing, you can still just wreck opponents in a filthy way. And as a fighting type Pokemon, pretty much every move you're going to use is going to make contact, like Close Combat, your signature moves, and unless like Stone Edge or something. I haven't looked at the full move set, so we have this right here. We can see everything that it learns for each form. So, you know, Aqua Jet, we can get that as a priority, but then you look at the Sucker Punch, it kind of changes the game. Like, all right, we got a Dark type, 130 base power Pokemon that gets access to the Stab Sucker Punch. That is ridiculous. So there's a lot of different things that change up how this Pokemon works. If you can thread in a Bulk Up as like an anti-stall, you can just do that, destroy the opponents. Iron Head for fairies. So you're faster than a lot of fairies at that 97 speed. Unless like Scarf and shenanigans. So outside of like any speed weirdness, you're just going to naturally outspeed fairies. So that Iron Head does become pretty important. Close Combat, that's probably going to be the primary move that you're using. Again, 130 base power, close combat with stab, elemental punches as well. This Pokemon has the shenanigans, and again, that's going to be saved for something else because we cannot get into that territory just yet. But big things to note, this is what I was talking about. Urshifu is going to be this massive anti-meta Pokemon, and if it's effective at being an anti-meta Pokemon, that is going to determine pretty much everything about it. So I've kind of modified this Pangoro, you know, into an Urshifu because the damage calculations don't have it. That's how early on we are right now, but this is effectively the same minus like the actual defenses and stuff. We're just looking at the offensive pressure against the Mimikyu, and it's enough. If you have an Adamant Nature, Life Orb Urshifu, and you use the Surging Strikes, first hit hits the decoy, Mimikyu loses 1/8 of its health, and then the rest of the hits finish it off with an 87.5 chance to one-hit KO. Or, this is where things also get really weird because speed. I wonder if this 97 speed is 100% deliberate just to make sure that it outspeeds Mimikyu. So what you want to do is you have the Jolly Nature that drops our damage down, but then you replace that with a Choice Band. And now we always KO the Mimikyu from full disguise, no Dynamax, as just a regular Mimikyu with our Surging Strikes. Because we took that 25 power off the first hit. We have crit on the other two hits for a combined 50 into a 75. It's enough. This Pokemon's wacky and it's accomplishing what it needs to. Same thing for Single Strike. We're looking at the Dark type Pokemon. What happens if you Scarf it? Well, if you Scarf it at this 97 speed, you're faster than a Jolly or timid Dragapult, which means you can use your signature move and do way too much damage. So yeah, like I said, Dark type close combat, already factoring in the crit. That's almost a double overkill, but also gives an idea of how much damage this Pokemon naturally puts out. Adamant Nature, Scarfed. No extra item, no extra damage coming out, and it's almost neutrally one-shotting an 88-75 Pokemon. Again, I feel like this Pokemon is doing everything that it needs to do, and we can just start looking at like some of the other damage calculations and matchups. What I like doing is I like pulling out the Silvally. You know, Silvally is just a naturally ridiculously bulky Pokemon, most sweepers, pretty much every sweeper you're going to encounter is going to be more frail, so potential one-shot territory, and then bulky Pokemon. It's like a really good reference. Like, if you're neutrally one-shotting a Silvally, you are doing something very right. So let's go and buff this power up to where it should be, and that's close. Like, Jolly, Choice Banded, if you're outspeeding it and you're just crushing slower Pokemon, it's ridiculously successful, even as the Rapid Strike style. So then what we do is we can change this up into, say, the single strike style, and that's our damage numbers. So the damage on this is kind of crazy. You can even run like Adamant Choice Band if you're not worried about the Mimikyu. Mimikyu just doesn't exist as a Pokemon anymore because of this or other weird meta things going on. Then what you do is you run the Adamant nature, and that pushes your damage over. Anything slower than you is wrecked. So, I mean, you just get a natural speed boost in this. We already talked about Choice Scarf, but I mean, you get an Airstream in doubles. Or you use this Pokemon's Aerial Ace to give it its own Airstream, and then I don't even know what happens anymore. Now, if you're doing that, I don't think the Choice Band matters. You can go with a Life Orb, still getting a lot of damage, finishing off a low opponent, and then going into signature moves or just stab moves. That's just too much damage. That's just too nutty. You can kind of do whatever you want. I mean, there's also so many other pros and cons that just, like, this Pokemon's too diverse. This Pokemon's too many weird interactions. You're just going to find all these strange things happening. Like, if you're using Dynamax, you set your own rain. So you Airstream into rain, potentially KO a Pokemon. Now you have 50% more damage on top of that with your next water move, and then when your Dynamax wears off, you're still using buffed water moves that are critting and destroying everything. Like, the interactions, it's just madness. It's just insanity. I still think this Pokemon has weaknesses. I still think this Pokemon has vulnerabilities. Again, like Scarf Sylveon, if you don't have a speed boost, and it's over. Any kind of other Fairy-type Pokemon, Togekiss that's already set up, you're not going to be able to respond to it at all. Other fast, water, special-type moves. Like, the special is where this Pokemon kind of goes down. But if you are rocking, like, some kind of God setup to where you manage to get the Max Knuckle +1 on top of that Life Orb, and the rest of the your coverage is bailing you out, that's going to be a thing. But you might not always have the perfect coverage for every situation. Like, if you have the Single Strike style, that's going to be good against Rotom Wash. Rapid Strike style, I guess you can still use the fighting type moves. Like, that close combat is probably just going to dumpster a Rotom Wash. Let's go back to fighting or dark, doesn't matter. But, I mean, I want to kind of keep this true to the Urshifu that we would potentially be running. So, Rotom, problem with Rotom, it's got a million different sets, so scroll down. There we go. I didn't scroll down all the way. Utility. I want like some mixed bulk in here. So yeah, you aren't one-shotting it. I mean, that's still a big close combat. And what does Choice Band say? Actually, yeah, survey says, Choice Band says, I don't think the opponent gets played Pokemon today. Adamant though. So if it's like a high bulk Rotom, it has a chance to survive. Unless it's like full bulk, like full Rotom. Nah, you don't KO it pretty much under any circumstance. But this is still nasty. This is still ridiculous, and you're faster than it. Unless it's like a Scarf Rotom. And if it's a Scarf Rotom, then that means it's going to be offensive, which means it's going to die. So if you have the Choice Banded Single Strike, you're crushing the Rotom. Just for all of the weird things in the game. Actually, wait. Are you faster than Adamant? Yeah, you're faster than Adamant. Heck if I know anymore, guys. Things are too wacky with this Pokemon. Like I said, there's just like a million strange interactions. And I feel like this Pokemon is just meant to shut down Incineroar. Because Incineroar Intimidate doesn't matter. If you're critting, negative affliction to your stats. So -1 attack or any Intimidate. They're hard spamming Intimidate, Parting Shot. Doesn't matter. You're still getting your full damage every time. Now, that is going to be on the Rapid Strike style with like the super effective water type move. You're not going to be able to do the dark type move against Incineroar as effectively, but you still have like a ridiculous close combat. Incineroar doesn't stand a chance. It stands a negative chance. It's like it can't do anything. I guess like first turn it fakes you out, but I mean, Quick Guard, Psychic Terrain. What's it going to do? What if there's going to be a lot of weirdness around this Pokemon. It's really good. I feel like maybe there's gonna be like this could be meta shaping and not in a centralizing way. Like, people are going to have to adapt to have more things that can play around the Pangoro, because Pangoro is so anti-current meta at this time. That's a good thing, and then it creates a lot of mix-ups. Then we still don't even know what's going on with, like, Talonflame and those kind of shenanigans. I was thinking about Gyarados, but I mean, you're just faster than Gyarados, so the Thunder Punch is probably a 100% necessity just with all the Pokemon that we're seeing. Iron Head damage calculation is going to be something else. It's crazy, because I thought this Pokemon could have been, like, super ultimate nutty if they did like a 570 or 600 base stat total and kept it legal. It's 550 legal, and it still just changes everything we know about Pokemon by having just like some kind of reach, some kind of impact. There's so many interactions with this Pokemon in all forms that's just like really good, and then it also slaps around in the meta really well, and it's kind of crazy. Like, let's go back here. This is the dark one. Sucker Punch, Choice Band, Adamant. How much does that do in Soul Valley? Like that's kind of insane. that's the damage that it just has on a Sucker Punch on demand. Like, Stealth Rock's gonna be more viable because of Talonflame and Volcarona. So what if we take just a regular Pokemon? Don't see Jolteon. Oh, no, not Jolteon. Cinderace. Cinderace is the boy. Cinderace doesn't survive Stealth Rocks plus a Sucker Punch from an Adamant Choice Banded Urshifu. Okay, the game is just too flippin' fricked for me. Like, I'm just thinking about all these other things, like you bulk up and then you Dynamax Airstream, so that's a possibility. But then you're also getting Moveslot Syndrome, so it could reduce your sweeping potential, but maybe it doesn't matter depending on the form that you're doing. Like, the Dark type coverage on a +1 with a max move, Gyarados is probably still dead anyways, so you don't need the Thunder Punch, and that's where you get the bulk up. And you still run coverage, and you're still going to be okay. So it's going to take a lot more research to figure out what's going on in this Pokemon. But, I mean, this is just first couple hours after barely seeing what this Pokemon does in its interactions. And there's already, like, ridiculousness that happens. And it's going to just get even more insane from here. So, if you guys enjoy the video, hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.